Welcome back to the Bullpen on the Horn Takes podcast, the internet show all about Texas baseball. Joining me in the bullpen tonight are Marc Pena from Occupy Left Field, Zach Sim from OrangeBloods.com. How are you guys doing tonight?
Fantastic, Sean. How about yourself?
It's Cinco de Mayo, man, and it's a Monday, and I'm having a great Monday. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, everything's good, man. It's been a Monday for sure. Been all over the place, but yeah, everything's good, man. New week.
Well, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you guys join me on a Monday night. Make sure you guys follow us on X for the latest on Texas baseball. I feel like 3 different accounts. We've got Marc Pena, that's just big time, all pro Texas baseball. We got Zach Sim, that's got some recruiting, a lot of recruiting actually. Like I think I see more stuff from Zach that's showing recruits that are committed to Texas or recruits that are targets for Texas than probably any account that I follow. And maybe there's another one out there, but Zach is on top of it. And then you got me that's just like the in-between, just knucklehead guy. And so I think all 3 accounts are worth following. So check them out. Subscribe and get notified for all the latest content on the YouTube channel at Horn Takes. Make sure you go to Last Stand Hats and check out the left field collection. I believe there's probably still some stuff out there, right, Marc?
There are, and we're going to have a new shipment in Austin this weekend from Florida. So if anybody's going to be out at Dish Falk, we'll have some additional merchandise for sale out in left field.
A lot of good-looking left field stuff. I got to admit, I like the little foul pole thing. I'm down with that. That looks really good on those hats and shirts and hoodies and all that stuff. You can check out our store, horntakestore.myshopify.com. We had the El Cuda collection, and that stuff sold out in like 20 seconds. So I'm trying to get some more of that stuff in. Hopefully we'll have that stuff back up on the website. Appreciate all you guys that ordered some of that. I know Rylan appreciates that as well. A lot of this money going back to the Texas One Fund, going back to the players. So if you see it up there, go ahead and get you some. You can get a nice, pretty interesting, cool little set of Texas paraphernalia and support the program. And who doesn't want to do that? Make sure, guys, if you're chewing seeds, and you should be chewing seeds because it is baseball season, check out ChinookSeedery.com. Use the promo code HORNTAKES. Get 10% off your order. I just got done trying all 8 flavors in 8 days. Zach, I know you're a big deal guy. Marc, what is your flavor, man?
Mine's jalapeno ranch. I love the jalapeno ranch.
He's got the deal right there. I love the jalapeno ranch as well, but I have a massive sweet tooth, and that cinnamon toast is pretty damn good. I got to be honest. Honestly though, the only one that I'd eat all 8 of them, no doubt, but the only one I was like kind of like was the lemon pepper, and it was only because to me it just tasted like the original. Like there wasn't a lot of lemon in there, there wasn't a lot of pepper in there, and maybe I just got a bad batch. That happens. But the bag I tried was just, I mean, it was almost just the original. But again, I would eat it because I like the original. So good stuff at ChinookSeedery.com. It's a Texas-based company. It is a company that supports college baseball, and if you're watching this show, you probably love college baseball. So go ahead and give those guys a shot at ChinookSeedery.com. Horn Takes promo code, get you 10% off. Check that out. All right, guys. Let's talk about it. We don't want to talk about it, but the 3rd time was indeed a charm for Zach. Texas goes on the road, drops their first series of the season, and they got swept in pretty convincing fashion up in Fayetteville. A 0-9 game, a 1-6 game, and an 8-13 game. Marc, we'll take your thoughts first. We'll save Zach's gloating for last year. Marc, talk about it, man. What were you thinking all weekend? What do you take out of this series as the big time Texas baseball fan?
Well, first of all, don't give Zach too much credit. You said the 3rd time was the charm. That was his 4th time to pick against Texas. So the 4th time was the charm.
My bad. So yeah, just forget everything I just said.
All right.
Yeah, forget everything I said.
But Sean, to answer your question, man, that was just an ugly weekend all around. I think we've been kind of joking and talking through the course of the season that you knew you weren't going to get through the SEC unscathed, and you knew that one of these weekends were going to eventually hit you. I think what really took me by surprise was the dominance that you saw from the Arkansas side. I mean, that series just legitimately was not close at all, and Texas was just overpowered from start to finish there in Fayetteville. So it was disappointing from that perspective. But again, man, I'm kind of hoping that if you're going to have a bad weekend, just kind of everything comes to a head at one time, and all different aspects of team play just kind of didn't get it done over the weekend. And you hope that you can just kind of put that behind you and move on and try and get back in the winning mode this week as you get Florida here in Austin. But it was a frustrating series to watch. A lot of self-inflicted stuff. We've all talked a lot, text and online, about the Texas strikeouts, how many free passes we were giving Arkansas. It seemed like every time I looked up, Arkansas had 2 or 3 guys that had walked to get on base, and then they'd come up and get a big double or a home run, and before you know it, boom, game over. So just an uncharacteristic weekend, but at the end of the day, you really hope that it was, again, just a bad weekend. Personally, I feel a little bit better. I think it's wild that we're still ranked number 1 in the country, so kind of makes it hard to be a little bit too critical of the team, because we are 1 and 2 in the polls as of right now. So again, man, you just flush it and hope that the team can refocus and have a good little homestand here in Austin this week.
Yeah, you mentioned all the self-inflicted wounds and things. It was like one of those weekends where just absolutely nothing went right. Like I'm trying to remember a time in Texas baseball history where I could go everything wrong that could have happened absolutely went wrong. Like it went wrong this weekend. It was the ultimate perfect storm of just mistakes and running into a team that's got a really dangerous lineup and running into a team that's starting to get healthy on the pitching side. And by God, do they have some guys that can throw some gas, and then not just the gas, but throw the cheese in behind it to really keep people off balance. I made a video at some point. Maybe it was Sunday morning, just like a TikTok and Twitter video, where I was like, I have a hard time believing that team that I just saw lost 3 straight SEC series, because they looked really, really good against Texas. Obviously, Zach, you've been saying it all year. You've been saying it was going to happen. Talk to us. What are your thoughts on this series? You get it right finally, and you get it right in a pretty big way. It wasn't just the 1-2 type of deal. The just losing the series. Arkansas dominates Texas. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the series, Arkansas had lost 3 straight series, right? Like I keep going back to something that Schlossnagle said a couple of weeks ago. He said, look, you have to be desperate to win in the SEC. Like, you have to bring it every single game, or else there's simply no margin for error. And then just the combination of Texas not putting together quality at bats, not following their offensive approach for much of the game, much of the 2 games. And then on the other hand, like, you got to hand it to Arkansas. Like, Zach Root, I've watched him a long time when he was at East Carolina. That guy's always been a dude. Just because he had 2 bad starts prior to this, I mean, he fucking was on fire against Texas Thursday night. Like, it didn't matter if you're the 72 Yankees or, it doesn't matter who's out there. Like, that guy was just dominating. And then, you look at Gage Wood, who Texas faced on Saturday, and you start looking at some of the metrics from the righty, and he's up there in metrics wise, like next to Paul Skeens. And if you start talking about Paul Skeens, you're like, okay, yeah, like that's something, right? And so it's funny, like, you look at the quality at bats and you say, okay, well, they struck out 14 times the first night, they struck out 15 times the second night, like they got worse. But in reality, like, they put better at bats together. It just didn't happen for them, right? Like, some of the hits they did get a hold of, like, they went to people, right? And so, you take everything that just can go wrong, went wrong. But yeah, I mean, 38 strikeouts against 16 hits on the weekend. they had 22 walks and 9 hit by pitch. You're not winning any SC series, much less against a team like Arkansas over a 3-game series. Simply put, they got their ass whooped. That's all there is to it. And, it doesn't matter how good certain guys look. They didn't execute their pitches, and that was that, right? Offense didn't execute, and that was that. And to Mark's point earlier, is like every single time they walked a batter or hit a batter, the next guy was hitting a home run. And Sloss has talked about it. Max Wiener's talked about it. It's like, hey, we're fine. We can live and die by giving up a single home run. Yeah. That's not a problem. But when you start giving them 2-3 runs at a time and they start getting those chunks, you can't catch up. I mean, there's nothing tough. Your offense can do. So,
yeah, it's really tough when that happens for sure. You mentioned Zach Root. We talked about him prior to the last Monday's bullpen show. We talked about Zach Root. He was an 81K guy before we came in, which is really high. At this point in the season. But you look at what he had done so far against what he did do on Thursday night, it was like a totally different guy. He goes 8 innings, which he's never done. I think they said it was like 5 1/3. I think they said was his longest start this year. And I may be off on that, but close enough. Certainly not close to 8 innings pitched. And the K's, he said a personal best in K's against Texas. That changeup was absolutely filthy to the righties. I mean, and as I was watching that game, Zach and Mark, I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, man, this whole try to take him deep in the count thing is not going to work against somebody that's working like this, because you're taking that first pitch strike, which is a fastball right down the cooter. and then he's breaking off he's got that breaking pitch that he's throwing in on you that he's getting called for strikes. And then he has that just wipe out nasty changeup that you can't lay off because it looks juicy coming right down the middle of the plate. And then it falls away 2 or 3 balls outside of the strike zone. I was like, God, just really solid execution out of him. And then you talk about Gage Wood, who's come off some injuries, hasn't really pitched a lot this season. And the funny thing is, I was all excited because we were getting a righty. I was like, hey, man, we got a righty, man. We're going to be all right. Man, that dude just threw 98, 99, like right past us. And then he had a sick breaking pitch as well. That's a really tough. I mean, if they can execute like that the rest of the season, that's a really tough 1-2 punch out of that Arkansas pitching staff. We can talk about the guys up to bat and all that stuff, but I don't know. I mean, that's like major league stuff those dudes were throwing. Like that is,
yeah. I mean, that's 2 top 20 lines in MLB draft. Like that's
right.
How good they are.
Not a lot of lineups are going to be really good against what we saw Thursday night and Friday night out of those 2 guys. So for Arkansas, I think it's execution down the stretch. For Texas, it's absolutely flush that shit. Like that never happened. Whatever. Mark, you said it. We're still the number 1 team in the country, which, man, is just I don't know that I hate it necessarily from like a logical perspective, but it sure is wild to get swept the way we got swept and still be the number 1 team in the nation. Let's talk about the offense for we've been talking about that pitch, and let's talk about this offense. I'll get it started. 167 on the weekend is what we hit. 38 Ks. We did have 10 walks. We stranded 16 guys. And that honestly might be the best offensive stat of the whole weekend for us, is we only stranded 16 guys because, man, it was just a dominant performance by that Arkansas pitching staff. We've got to get some more production out of some of these guys that we have gotten a lot of production out of and would kind of expect, I think, to get pretty consistent production out of. Either one of you guys, talk to us about that. What are your thoughts on just some of the guys that we've, and I don't want to name any of these guys by name, but there's some guys in the lineup right now that aren't producing at a high clip that were guys that we would expect to do that, and they haven't done it the last 3 weeks. I'm talking like 188, 194, 152 over the last 3 weekends of SEC baseball. How do those guys snap out of that?
I mean, it's tough. Like hitting's one of those things where you get into a funk and you start searching, you start looking at your approach, you start playing with your mechanics. Honestly, it's getting back into the cages and getting your timing done right. That's where it's all at. I mean, they're going to be working with Tulo. The thing is, you want to start early and then you're able to adjust. There's a couple of guys that they've got a lot of length in their swing. And, you know, very frankly, they're guys that haven't seen, like, I can't remember what the metric is now, but I know at the beginning of the season, Coach Schlossnagle said that Flores last year saw like 170 fastballs that were, you know, legit fastballs. He said an equivalent guy on his A&M roster saw 380 fastballs. And it's just like, okay, well, like it's a different level of competition. And so there's time that you have to adjust. And I get it, like you're this late in the season, but you know, guys are banged up, guys are grinding through the season. And sometimes your timing just gets off and you kind of need that reset. And sometimes it's a weekend like this where you kind of get punched in the face and you say, okay, yeah, I need to get back in the cages and just kind of get it back together. Right. So yeah, it's, I don't know how they get back on track necessarily, but they're going to have to do so quickly because Florida's bringing another group of power throwing righties. So
yeah, I know.
And Sean, I'm trying to keep perspective from my side, right? Because we sat here last Monday and I remember saying after the A&M series that it always feels like somebody new is stepping up and getting a big hit for Texas, right? And you do have to keep that perspective that we were on a 10-game winning streak rolling into Fayetteville, right? With 2 big SEC sweeps in a row. So I don't want to go too far off the other end, but yeah, it was a sobering weekend. And I think the guys are going to have to get back to the basics. But, you know, speaking of not just of offense, but just the entire weekend, I think the one thing that stood out to me as well is I didn't see any of the fire or the emotion or the looks of the team having fun in Fayetteville, right? Even game 1 on Thursday, that did not look like a team that was having fun playing baseball and kind of thriving in a big time, you know, SEC environment. They just looked a little flat. In some stages of the weekend, they almost looked disinterested to me. And I'm not saying that they were, that's just how they looked on TV, right? Not the same kind of emotion in the dugout. You know, you saw kind of Arkansas setting the tone from that perspective. The Arkansas pitchers were striking people out and then talking shit right to them as they walked off the field, right? Wood, especially on Friday, he was barking after every strikeout that he had. So I just felt like Arkansas wanted it more. That they fed off the crowd and just really took control of that series from the start. So again, I think the schedule breaks down well for Texas, where we're back home. We get 4 more games in front of the home fans and get an opportunity to kind of lick your wounds and get back on. So we'll see, man. It's gonna be a big weekend coming up. Like Zach mentioned, Florida's coming in. They're hot as hell right now. So it's gonna be a fun weekend for sure.
Yeah, arguably not a hotter team in the SEC right now than that Florida team if you really look at it. So
he gone.
Yeah, it'll certainly be a test. What'd you say, Zach?
I said you gone. You froze for a moment there, bub.
Oh, okay. My bad. Am I back? Are we back?
We're back.
You're good.
All right. I was saying arguably not a hotter team than this Florida team that we're about to face this weekend in the SEC right now. So yeah, it never gets easier in the SEC. You mentioned something I thought was pretty important, Mark. You talked about the team and just sort of their mannerisms during this series. It's the first time I noticed that the team just, I don't know. I don't want to say like scared because I don't think that's the right word, but maybe like it just looked like the moment was too big for them. Like they were pressing the whole time. They were just not themselves. It wasn't the calm, cool, collected Texas team we have seen so many times this year in SEC play already. It seemed like once the ball started rolling against them a little bit, they kind of almost panicked a little bit. And you started seeing that in the at-bats. You started seeing that in mistakes on the bases. You started seeing it in mistakes out in the field. Just kind of – it just all snowballed on them. And as the weekend went on, even though I felt like the bats got much better as the weekend progressed, you could still see certain guys were still just really pressing and not getting the most out of those at-bats, even in game 3. So where we were able to score, 8 runs, 7 runs, something like that. So yeah, I think for me, just as a, hey, this is what we've got to do to get back on track type of thing, it's get back to that, okay, something bad happened, somebody's going to fix it type of mentality. And everybody's got to go up there, play within themselves. I've said it on this show before, and I've talked about it a bazillion times to my son and all his players that played with him. It's just let the game come to you. Don't go chasing the game. Let the game come to you, because it has to come to you. If you're at bat, the ball's coming to you. Let it come, make a good swing, put the ball in play. So it'll be really interesting to see how this team responds. I've talked to some people and heard, like, man, the team was really, really bummed leaving out of there on Saturday, like, just and so can they pick it back up and get ready for this Tuesday night game, be successful there, and then push that on through to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against a Florida team that they are super hot. Let's talk a little bit about, so we've talked about the offense. It just is what it was. It wasn't great. Credit those Arkansas pitchers. The pitching out there in Fayetteville was another thing that I just think we haven't seen before. The pitching, 10.5 ERA on the weekend on 28 earned runs. Zach, you mentioned it, 22 walks, 9 hit batsmen, which I think 9 hit batsmen just seems insane to me over a 3-game period. And I know, like, honestly, we have I haven't checked it, but I feel like we probably hit a lot of batsmen, like comparatively speaking, right? Like if we're going to measure our team against the SEC teams, we're probably really high up there and hit batsmen. But over the weekend, it was just like, holy shit. And the thing is, like, it's like 0-2 pitches or 1-2 pitches, and we're hitting guys. And it's just, I mean, those are back-breaking things. 14 of their 28 runs were walked or hit batsmen. And if you look at these scores, you probably think, man, we had a ton of errors. We had 1 error all weekend, and it was a throwing error. It was a pickoff error by a pitcher in game 3. It wasn't even during the terrible games where we got smoked. So, we did have the 1 miscue on the pop fly, but whatever. Not an error. Talk to us about this pitching staff and how do they get back on track? Like, if you're Texas, you came in with the 2nd ranked ERA in the country, and it's still probably pretty high. I haven't checked it comparatively, but I'm sure it's under 4 for sure, and it's probably still really good nationally. How do those guys get back on track? Because they got roughed up. And matter of fact, everybody you wouldn't expect to get roughed up got roughed up this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a weird situation, Sean. I think especially the game on Friday for me, right? You see a final score of 6-1, and you kind of just think, oh, Arkansas dominated that game. But that really – it wasn't the case offensively for Arkansas. I mean, I don't think they had a hit after the 4th inning. We had a scenario that I don't think I've ever seen before, where we literally walked the bases loaded 3 times in 4 innings. I've never seen that outside of like a high school baseball game. I think it went, Zach, in the 2nd. We walked the bases loaded and then gave up a 3-run double to fall down 4-0. And then 2 innings later, I think there was 2 walks and 2 hit by pitch. We hit a guy with the bases loaded, brought in their 5th run. Right. And then the next inning, the same thing happened again. We walked the bases loaded, and I think we hit a guy with the bases loaded, and that brought in their 6th run. And it's like, it was insane. Like, they weren't really hitting the ball at all on Friday, but every time I looked up, they had the bases loaded and were threatening to blow the game open. So you're right, Sean. Across the board, there just wasn't consistency on the pitching side. But I'll be honest, man, we've seen these guys work all season. I'm not worried. about guys like Ruger Riojas and Max Grubbs and Dylan Volantis. They're going to be fine. And you know what, man? I would rather all of them have an off weekend at the same time than have one guy a weekend that's not kind of locked in and in sync. So again, man, I'm just hoping that it was just that perfect storm of stuff not going well for the team and that they'll get back to business this coming weekend. But yeah, you can't have those walks. Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is the first weekend all season where we haven't had a pitcher go more than 4 innings, right? I think Ruger and Grubbs both got pulled before the end of the 4th, and I think Harrison went exactly 4, right? And that's just not going to get it done, especially against a team like Arkansas, right? You have to have at least 1 or 2 guys that goes deeper in the game to give your bullpen more of a chance. So just again, man, I hate to keep using the phrase, but that weekend really was a perfect storm. But you want to give credit to Arkansas as well. There was obviously periods where they were putting pressure on Texas, and they took advantage of all of our mistakes, right? Every time we did walk 1 or 2 guys, they hit a home run on Saturday, right? And those Aloy brothers, man, I don't ever want to see them play Texas again. Those guys are monsters. So credit to Arkansas. They did the job and got it done. But to answer your question, Sean, I'm not worried about the pitching. They're going to be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, from a pitching versus hitting, like I have the most faith in the pitching staff, especially just what Max Wiener's done. Honestly, you talk about Friday night, Mark. I think Thursday night set the entire tone.
Yeah.
Ruger comes out, and honestly, it's just one of those things where he had pitched 3 games in 11 or 12 days at that point. Like the way the schedule lined up, it is what it is, right? Jared goes down. You've got to have him in there. Then you got to get him to start against A&M. Then it's a short week. And, that stuff adds up. And people are like, oh, well, you still get 5 days rest. Or like you get out of your routine. And when you get out of your routine, it doesn't matter how good of a rubber arm you have. It's the accumulation of the season that just kind of comes together. And then you're not in your element. You've got the crowd. They're rowdy. And I think we talked about it. I said, like, one of the things is Texas has to come out and match the energy early on, or else you're going to get slapped. And they got slapped, right? And so when Ruger got into trouble early on, it was just like this cascading effect. It was like, oh, shit, if Ruger can't do this, it kind of seeps into your mind like, okay, I'm up next. What do I have?
What do
right?
I do?
you would think that, like, how good Cody Howard and Bryce Navarre were after him, where they didn't give up any runs, would kind of settle things down. But, those are 2 guys that haven't pitched that often this season. And so now you turn right back around and you have Luke Harrison and just, a little bit of the same, right? Like Harrison's going to battle. He's going to keep you in the game, but Texas offense was just doing no favors. And again, Gage Wood was really freaking good. So, coming back against Florida, I think the extra day of rest helps, right? Everyone gets a little extra rest to, get some training in, get some extra reps, get in the weight room. But I have the least amount of worry from the Texas pitching staff. And the other thing that, we talked about this morning was the ballpark was going to play small. It's not that it's a small park. It just plays small. And it absolutely did. They had 3 home runs or 4 home runs over the weekend that were around 91 or 93 miles off the bat. Like, that's a pop fly. That is not a home run. And that one, they had 3 of them that were just wall scrapers. They got them up into the wind and they just carried and carried.
Yes.
Carried. You're like, shit, like, where's this thing going to land? And it happens.
The one Gaspo almost pulled back in center field, dead center field, was just off the bat, looked like the ultimate pop-up to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, that's an out. And it just keeps going and going. And I mean, he got his glove on it. He did a great job to even get up there and get his glove on it. Yeah, I agree. I thought the park, while it isn't small, man, it sure did. I don't know what it is. Something about where they're at. The ball just goes and goes and goes and goes. So, but I mean, that happens for both teams, right? We could have knocked some pop flies out as well.
Yeah.
And finally did on Saturday, really. So, yeah, I think, you talked about the pitching going deep and having to go a little bit deeper. I think you touched on it, Zach. If the offense does anything Thursday and Friday, I think you could have seen Riojas and Harrison go a little longer. But I think Sloss was probably just like, man, I got to get these guys out of here because I don't want to extend them any longer and put more stress on them physically. And then you think about the mental aspect of it. Like Ruger was pitching really well until he didn't. I mean, he hung that 0-2 breaking pitch that I forgot who knocked it out, but he hung that 0-2 breaking pitch that got smashed out of the ballpark. And from there, it was just kind of like, man, they were just teeing off. And again, I hate to keep saying credit Arkansas, but early on Thursday, they hit a bunch of breaking pitches really, really hard, like super hard. Like you just don't see that much at the collegiate level where guys can bang the breaking pitch like they were. So, yeah, I think
it's very
all in all,
that they saw something, right? Like Ruger wasn't doing anyone any favors in terms of he wasn't landing his fastball, which he normally does. Everything was kind of running up and in on him. He wasn't able to get a little extra cut on it, some late life. So they were sitting breaking ball. They were sitting his splitter and cutter. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just completely abnormal. He gave up 9 runs in one game. In his prior 6 starts, he'd only give up 8 runs total. I mean, it's just, what do you do, right? Like it's one of those days where sometimes it's not your day. So
yeah, and I think if we're being honest, like if we've got to have that, we would rather have that the third to last weekend of SEC play versus obviously down the road when it ultimately matters the most when you're trying to win or go home. So yeah, I think we touched on it. Kind of the team just seemed. You said something, Mark. I said they seemed kind of overwhelmed by the moment. I think you said there was no fire, no fight in the team, something along those lines. I think the hitters just. You guys talked about the approach this morning, Zach, you and Sloss, and you brought it up specifically. You said something about trying to take pitchers deep into the count, even though they're throwing a lot of fastballs. And Sloss, I think what I heard him say was, yeah, that's kind of not what we knew that was going to happen this weekend. And we kind of told the guys, hey, you're going to see some fastballs early on. Let's try to hit some fastballs. And some of them, and he even said it, some of them tried to swing at some of those pitches. Some of them didn't. And the ones that didn't, it was just basically a strikeout because they were not hitting the secondary pitches as well as he was locating them on Thursday. So, I was encouraged because I was watching the game and I was like, man, like, are we still going to try to do this? Like this dude is pumping strike one. I mean, it is consistently every time. And that is, I know I say it all the time when I'm having this discussion, but that strike one might be the best pitch you get. It absolutely most of the time was the best hitter's pitch those guys were going to get was that first pitch he threw right over the plate. And so I was really getting like just frustrated, man. I mean, you might not hit it, but that's going to be your shot because you're not hitting anything else.
But you know what's funny about that is two things. One, Texas actually had his pitch count up pretty high after the first 2 innings. Like
they did.
It looked like the strategy might actually kind of play to their favor, where if they could get Root high enough in the pitch count, and then again he kind of just zoned in and it was game over. But you know, one of the things that Schlossnagle I go back to, he always says after a post game or you know when we're talking whatever else is like, you don't hit elite breaking balls. Like it just does not happen. You hit the bad ones, right? And so if you're going up looking for fastballs, you better be going early, because with a guy like Root who had such a nasty curveball and then he can mix in the change, you're not hitting that. And so yeah, to his point, like he said, like, hey, we actually went into the weekend with a swing first approach, and he's like, look, it's not a video game. I can't make those guys swing.
Yeah, he said, I don't have a joystick. I can't make them do it. Yeah.
I was dying laughing. I was like, oh my God. But it's true. I mean, you've ingrained these guys so much, right? To change the entire philosophy to get away from that swing first, because they're second or first in the nation with Notre Dame in pitches per at bat. And it's obviously worked, right? They're 38-8. They're 19-5 in SEC play. But there's going to be games where you run into a guy like Root, and it's going to bite you in the ass. So, you know, it's, again, credit to Arkansas, as we say, like they deserved it. I mean, give them all the accolades.
Yeah, I mean, tip of the cap. They did it. We didn't. We're talking Texas, Arkansas. We'll be talking Texas, Lamar here in a minute, and we'll be talking obviously Texas, Florida. Jump in the chat. Drop us your comments. Drop us your questions. We'd love to hear from you guys. Dean Stevens, thanks for joining tonight. The Pencil Pods dad, man. I got to meet Dean down in Austin for the A&M series. It was really awesome listening to Dean and Jack tell their story about just why they were there, how they got there, all that stuff. So if you're not following Jack DeLongchamps, I believe I said, maybe it's Champs, I don't know. It's a long-ass name that says Jack Day Long something. Follow that dude on Twitter, man, because he's got some good content going on. And Dean's right there with him, at least some of the time, following him and keeping him in line. But, yeah, good follow there. Talk about the pitching before we wrap up this whole monstrosity that was Texas, Arkansas. One thing I typed down on my notes was, if you told me we'd throw Grubbs, Burns, and Valanis in the same game, there's almost no way I would say we're giving up 12 earned runs. And I'd almost tell you there's no way we're losing that game, because those guys have just been so good for so long here in the SEC play. But that's exactly what happened. Do we think – so we came off this really high emotional series with A&M, and that's a thing, right? Like we know that meant a lot to our team. It meant a lot to the A&M team. And these pitchers, those three especially, have been guys that have thrown a lot of innings so far in SEC play. Is there anything to the whole notion that it was super emotional? We had a short week. They just look kind of gassed to me, man. It just looked like they did not have their best stuff this weekend. What do you think about that, Zach, Mark? Am I reading too much into that, or is that something you took away as well?
I think the short week more than anything. As far as being gassed, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of innings at this point in the season, but, I thought Valantis' stuff looked really good. He came in and he got a 3-pitch strikeout right off the bat against a really good hitter. The thing I kind of go back to Grubbs is, you put him in a start, like he got a start, right? And so you have to factor in that's very different from being out of the bullpen. It's a different motion. It's a different just mentality in general. And kind of what you saw from Grubbs at his worst last year, which he was very good for Texas, but at his worst, around the 4th inning, he got into trouble. Now, he could still usually work out of it, but it was that 4th inning that was always whatever. Like, I think we talked about it with Pierce a couple of times. I was like, what is it mentally? Like, you get into, like, you're just in this rhythm, and all of a sudden you just kind of have a blow-up inning, and then you get right back out there, and you're fine, right? And normally that works if you're in the Big 12 and you're not giving up a bunch of runs. But when it's the SEC and it's a tight game, like you don't have that luxury, right? And so, I don't think it was anything necessarily that I saw that was different. Grubbs didn't seem to have as tight of control of his slider as he had. He was sitting 83 to 85. His sinker was mostly 88 to 89 instead of 90, 91. But I mean, you're talking about a velo point here too. Maybe the spin rate wasn't quite as sharp, but I think most of it was just you're facing a team that's really disciplined at the plate. I mean, they're number 1 in the SEC, and they're number 1 in SEC and conference play as well in hitting. And then you just got guys on a short week. It was an emotional weekend for against A&M. They put a lot into it, right? 3 one-run games. That's going to take it out of you. Like, that's a lot of stress. So it just imperfect timing, if you will, of having that type of weekend coupled with a short week and on the road at a place like Starkville, but at Bum Walker in Fayetteville. Yeah. So,
any other thoughts, Mark?
No, Sean, I think from my side, I'm gonna attribute it more to just maybe not quite as sharp and not having the type of focus that we've seen them have on the mound the last several weeks. I don't think those guys are out of gas right now. They just weren't on top of their game. And, if they were out of gas, then that concerns me more than just having a bad weekend. Right. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that's not the case. And it was just lack of focus and not having your best stuff, playing in a hostile environment against a really good team. Right. Yeah. And, I don't want to make any excuses for them. I think when you get through a weekend like that, you just tip your cap to the other team, say you got your ass kicked, and you move on. So again, that's what I love about this conference, though, man. We immediately have two more ranked, or I guess depending on what poll you're looking at, we have two more ranked teams to close out the regular season. So we're going to find out real quickly if it was just a bad weekend or maybe some deeper issues that are going on there. But again, I think at the end of the day, I'm still very, very confident in this team. And the thing that's important, man, you hear a lot of people on Twitter talking about playing at home versus playing on the road, right? And Texas is almost to the finish line, right? And I really feel like if we win this series and we win tomorrow night against Lamar, then screw what everybody else says, because we're not going to have to play on the road in the postseason, right? So we won't even have to have that conversation, because Texas is going to be hosting a regional and a super in Austin, and somebody's going to have to beat us at Dish Falk. And, you know, based on our body of work this year, good luck with that.
Yeah, that'll be pretty tough. I don't think the pitching staff is out of gas season wise. I just felt like, and again, I'm not a trained eye, like I'm not some MLB scout or something, but it just looked to me like it was just a little off. Like, we talk about Ruger, usually like really nasty with that breaking pitch. He usually keeps it down, keeps it away. And a couple of times he just left it up right down the middle. And obviously they made him pay. And I don't think that's a pitch. I think if you go back like these last 3-4 weeks for Ruger before this Arkansas series, I don't think you see that pitch one time at a Ruger. And so I was just kind of like, is that a physical, what is it type of deal? I don't think it's a problem. I feel like they'll bounce back this weekend, and we'll see really good pitching out of this Texas team when this Florida team comes to town. Let's talk about so the big news of the day, and I think probably the surprising news, is Texas still ranked number 1 in the coaches poll, ranked number 1 in D1 baseball. I think that I don't know if any one of us three would have been like, yeah, man, Texas is going to still be number 1. I know you reached out to Kendall and we're like, hey man, what do you got? And he's like, oh, they'll be higher than 4.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody expected 1. So talk to us about that. What are your thoughts on still being ranked number 1 after that?
I mean, you got to look at the body of work, right? And, I had tweeted over the weekend that, before the end of that Friday game, we're one of 2 teams in the country, to my knowledge, that hadn't lost a weekend series, right? So
right.
You get the fact that Arkansas beat you up pretty good, but you can't ignore that they had lost 3 series leading up to this past weekend, right? And
right.
There's just so many other teams that are tripping up along the way as well, right? Clemson was number 2 coming into the weekend. They lost their 2nd straight series, I believe. And Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they got swept the weekend before. They lost to Florida State, so they've struggled as well. LSU was number 3. They just lost in College Station to a team that we swept. So it's just, that craziness of college baseball where the top 10 is just volatile and nobody's having clean stretches, right? So you look at the body of work with Texas, and to only have lost 1 series at this point is really, really impressive. And you keep looking, right, at where Georgia's at, where Auburn's at, where LSU is at.
Right.
All teams that we have beat, they are all in the top 10 still, right, and still making noise. So I think when you look at it, it's like, yeah, Texas has played 4 series against top 10 programs, and they're 3-1, right? So that's pretty good. And you look at Georgia and you look at Auburn. We swept those teams like Arkansas swept us, right? Maybe not quite as dominant, but it wasn't a 2-1 hard fought, series. We did some work in those series as well. So I think at the end of the day, there's nobody with a better resume than Texas overall. And man, they're just in a really great position right now. Like I mentioned earlier, I like the way that the schedule finishes up for them. A home series against Florida, and then we get the chance again to prove that we can beat a really good team on the road in Norman. I always feel a little bit better playing Oklahoma. We seem to have decent luck in their stadium. It's a very hitter-friendly park, and Texas has had some recent luck there against Oklahoma. So it's going to be a fun next 2 weeks, I'll tell you that much. And I'm hoping we get ourselves in a position where Hoover and the SEC tournament really means nothing to Texas, and they're just kind of there to get a game or two under their belt and get ready for the postseason.
Yeah, I think the other thing to take a look at is, the number 2 and number 3 teams below Texas lost. Their resumes aren't near as good. And then, look, Texas got swept by Arkansas. That's a fact. They got their ass whooped. But the 2 of the 3 teams that Arkansas had lost to in the prior series, Texas swept Georgia and A&M, right? And then Texas will play Florida this weekend. If Texas beats Florida, that's just another match point where you're like, okay, yeah, you had an off weekend. But overall, as to Mark's point, as a body of work, you are the number 1 team in the nation. And I think they've earned it. I probably would not have ranked them number 1. I probably would have moved them to number 2. I would probably, very frankly, I would have given Florida State the nod just because they did beat Clemson and they did a really good job against Clemson. But look, you look at the body of work and it's hard to say, no, they're not. So,
yeah.
It ain't
Mark,
Georgia, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
I don't think
Georgia by Baseball America. I'm like, oh, so you can go on the road and sweep the shittiest baseball team in the SEC, and you're all automatically the number 1 team. That was weird to me. I don't.
I'll tell you what, Georgia, as good as they are, they were tied 2-2 going into the 9th inning of Game 3 against Missouri. And
yeah.
Look, for anyone that's curious, I tweeted it out over the past 2 weekends. Like, watching watching Missouri baseball is like my new blood sport. Like, I love it. Watching these guys play I'm here for it every weekend.
But 30. Can they make it happen?
Can they make it happen? I think
they're going to make it happen. Who do they got? Who do they have the rest of the way?
Missouri
they get
still
A&M
has
this weekend,
game.
right?
They have a series at Texas A&M this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they go and they host Mississippi State. So, Mississippi
that's
State
rough.
Playing well after the weekend, but overall their body of work is not very good. So statistically, they're probably going to get one against Mississippi State. Against A&M, I don't think they have a chance, especially in College Station. But
I like Logan calling that shot.
Yeah, I'm ready for them to get one and see that. Yeah, that would be bad. You do not want to be the team.
Underdog. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to be.
They're going to win the last game of the season against Mississippi State.
That's what I was about to say. You do not want to be Mississippi State or Texas A&M right now with that kind of. You talk about pressure to not be the team that gives up a win or a loss rather to Missouri. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, but the whole Georgia number 1 thing is absurd. I think we can all agree on that. Like, everybody should be able to agree
point, on it. Texas, like, to win the SEC, they're 5 games, right? That's what we know the number is. Now, they're probably going to get help. They're probably not going to need 5 games because you look at Arkansas. Who do they have? Oh, they got to go to the box this weekend. And then they turn around and host Tennessee to wrap up the final game. That's murder's row right there. Like, coming off the high of beating Texas to go to the box. And LSU is going to be pissed off after what happened to them in College Station this past weekend.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the whole. So I did a poll, and it was last week before the Arkansas series. It was like, Texas firmly number 1, but there's 3 other teams I feel like at that time were in the running to catch up and possibly win the regular season title. Tennessee, LSU, Arkansas. Who do you think has the best chance to do that? And I said right in front of the poll, like, I think it was Arkansas because they're the only ones that had a chance to control what Texas did. Everybody else was just playing each other in this round robin thing, but nobody except for Arkansas had any impact on Texas's record. And all Arkansas does come out and make them 0-3.
If Texas gets 2 wins, so if they lose both the series to Florida and Oklahoma State, they can finish no worse than 4th place.
Yeah.
If they get 3 wins, they can finish no worse than 2nd place. So that tells you right there. They're, like I said, if they get any,
I think
LSU or Tennessee,
I think I was looking at it like Arkansas would have to win out for Texas to not win the SEC championship with 3 wins. Like Florida or Arkansas would absolutely have to win out for that to be the case.
So if Arkansas wins out, they're going to have a max of 23 wins and 7 losses. If Texas wins 4 games, they'll be 23-7 as well.
Okay.
So that means 4 games. If they win both series, but Yeah, Arkansas would have to win out, but then they would have the tiebreaker, obviously, at head-to-head. So
sure.
Like I said, even 4 games, you're guaranteed. You win 3 games, you're guaranteed second place. So,
well, we'll just go ahead and win all of them and just make it.
And to be honest, guys, Tennessee's playing some bad baseball right now. They've lost 4 out of 5 series, which is crazy for me to think about. But they have not played very well, and in some of those series, they're on the bad side of some very lopsided scores. Last couple weekends, I mean, I think they've lost 2 or 3 games going back to the A&M series by double digits. Like, they're getting blown out in some of these games. So Tennessee is limping a little bit, and they finished the season against a ranked Vanderbilt team, and then they go on the road in Fayetteville. So they're gonna have to turn it up to not go into the postseason really limping. It looks like every time I look at them, they've slid back in the top 25 rankings a little bit more. So I think they might be a little bit worried there in Knoxville.
I tell you what, though, Liam Doyle versus Zach Root for game 1 of that series, that final series, is going to be electric.
That's like must watch TV. Like, yeah, we gotta watch that for sure. That'll be good.
And in a little toss out here, if you did not see Vitello's getting thrown out this past weekend, go watch it. He didn't just chew out the home plate ump. He walked the entire infield to make sure he chewed out the third base, the second base, and the first base ump. He got everybody going out.
Yeah, Zach, and he should have.
Zach, how does that happen on Friday night, though, where they are playing a home game with their ace on the mound? How do they start a game in a driving rainstorm and then call it in the first inning and burn their pitcher? Like, that makes no sense. Like, doesn't the home team have some control over that? And
yeah. And the funny thing was, there was a home run hit.
He was pissed off, and I'm like, isn't this your fault? Like his pitcher literally went on the mound, and it's raining sideways. And I'm like, how the hell did they start that game, and why did they start the game? That's ridiculous.
And they gave up a home run, and you couldn't see it on the TV. It was so windy and rainy. They didn't know if it actually went out. Like, they had to get help from the outfield.
And guess who hit it? Our friend Ike Irish, right?
Man, Ike Irish, man. We need to get Ike Irish in the burn orange because that dude just hits bombs.
Yep.
All right. So we aren't going to have a 3 best, but I did want to say congrats to Cody Howard, and especially Cody Howard. 3 1/3 innings of no run baseball against that Arkansas team. I thought that was big time out of him. Hudson Hamilton, Ethan Walker, Bryce Navarre also gave up no runs. They were limited. They didn't pitch as much as Howard did. But I thought, if we want to talk about something positive, I thought that was very positive. There's some guys that just haven't been depended on whatsoever this year came in. And I know, man, the game was out of hand. They just didn't have a lot of pressure on them. But who cares? They came in and they kept an Arkansas offense that beat up all of the guys you wouldn't expect to get beat up. They held them in check. So congrats to those guys. Shout out to those guys. That's our 3 best. That's the best we're going to do. If y'all want to add something in on that, go ahead before we move on. All right. Nobody wants
I just want to say, no, I think offensively on Saturday, you alluded to some of the big hitters in our lineup needing to turn it up. I'm hoping that Jalen's 2 home runs might ignite him a little bit,
right,
and get him, swinging a hot bat. So that was at least encouraging to see, right? I was feeling real good when he put that 3-run homer out early in the game, and that didn't last very long. But It was good to see him get 2 home runs, and we're going to need him. We're going to need Ryland. We're going to need Kimball and all those guys ready to go this weekend.
Absolutely. All right. Let's jump ahead real quick to this Lamar midweek tomorrow night. Lamar 37-14, 17-10 in the Southland, swept by UT Rio Grande Valley, lost a series to some school called Northwestern State, lost a midweek to Houston, and they are coming off a series loss to Southeastern Louisiana. Zach, you tell me. Mark, you tell me what you think. To me, this doesn't seem like a very good Lamar baseball team. It doesn't seem like the Lamar. Was it Lamar 2 seasons ago or the year before that where they were so good?
Last year,
further back,
44 wins. They should have been in the NCAA tournament. They screwed them over.
Well, that was last season or the season before? Last season. That's
season.
What I thought. They had a really good season here recently, and they kind of got jobbed. But I don't think this is that team. I mean, we look at them offensively, not a power team. They've only got 39 home runs as a team. They're only slugging 434 as a team. They do got 95 doubles, which is pretty good. That's in the top third of the country. They do have a dude named Damian Ruiz. That seems to be their guy. He's 402, 1162 OPS, 41 RBIs, 7 home runs, 19 doubles, 2 triples. Talk to us, Zach. Talk to us, Mark. What are we thinking is going to go down tomorrow night out of this Lamar team? They're obviously going to come in. They're probably smelling blood in the water. They're going to throw everything they have at this Texas team because of what you just said, Zach. They had a really great season last year and got jobbed. So this might be their last opportunity to kind of show the tournament folks that they deserve to be in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they're honestly not a bad team. I mean, they've got 37 wins on the season. Their RPI is 58. So it's not like they're, some run-of-the-mill, Tuesday night fodder. They're probably going to throw Carter Sutton. He's 5-2 with a 4.84 ERA on the week or on the season. You look at their bullpen. Their bullpen is fairly solid in terms of ERA. Like sometimes you don't know about the pure stuff, right? But they've got guys that go in and throw strikes. It's not like they have more walks than strikeouts like some of the other teams.
They have a 4.08 ERA as a team. I mean, I think pitching is probably their strength.
But I mean, they've got better statistical numbers for the most part than Texas does. They got more hits. They got almost as many doubles. They've got a lot more triples. They're not a huge power hitting team, so it's going to be a lot of contact hits, right?
Right.
They're going to use gap to gap type power, but I think the biggest thing that I see from this team is they don't field the ball very well. They've got 51 errors on the season, and typically when you play at a place like Dish Falk, like that's going to come back to bite you. You can't, as we know, we just saw this weekend, you cannot give up free bases, and you can't let Texas take advantage because they will absolutely just pounce on you. But the other thing I noticed was, against quad one teams, so the top 50 RPI teams are 1-6, and they're 13-12 on the road. So I think they have the second or third best record at home in the nation. Like even better than Texas. They only have 2 losses all season long at home, but on the road they're 13-12. So they're a 500 club, and that's to me that spells the ball game for them. Largely is going to be how are they going to handle Dish Falk Field? It plays a lot bigger than what they're used to, and it's I just don't see how they're going to come out with a win unless Texas just completely implodes. But Texas is likely going to throw Cade Bing to start, and they're likely going to go throw the guys that haven't got a lot of innings. You're probably going to see an Aiden Moffett for an inning. You're going to see guys like Hudson Hamilton, maybe even Ace Whitehead. Like they're going to get ready for the weekend. They're not going to burn arms, certainly. Right. So that's your opportunity, and that's what they're going to need to know is, hey, this is our opportunity. They played Texas A&M fairly recently, and they held their own for the first half of that game, and then Texas A&M was able to pull away, but. The guy to watch for me is Tab Tracy. He's actually a former A&M kid. I think he went from Houston A&M, and then he didn't play at A&M, but he knows Schlossnagle, so he's been really good for them offensively. So it'll be interesting to see.
Mark, fan perspective, how important is it for this Texas team to get back on the saddle and get a win? Like, what would it do to the psyche if they weren't able to pull one out tomorrow night against this Lamar team?
I mean, it sounds stupid, but I do think it would be a pretty discouraging loss if we came out, didn't play well, tomorrow and took another loss. So I feel like you hear me say this every Monday when I talk with you guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know a damn thing about Lamar, but especially coming off of that Arkansas series, I want to see how our team responds, right? I want to see a team that's locked in, ready to go. I want to see us hitting the baseball. Again, just having fun playing baseball. The guys only have 4 home games left in the regular season, man. Crazy to think that we're already here at the end of the regular season, but not a lot of opportunities to go out there and play baseball. So I want to see them motivated. I'm assuming that Schlossnagle is going to be coaching like they're coming off of a sweep, and I'm sure he's going to be trying to motivate the guys as well to lock back in. So that's primarily what I'm looking for. I want to see the guys come out and just have some fun, be fired up, play good baseball, and get a win.
Yeah, I'm looking for like a little fire, like a little bit of sort of pissed offness that happened to us. And sorry, Lamar, you're on the shit end of that stick. Like, it's just what it is, right? So that's what I'll be looking for. Obviously, good baseball. Like, I mean, we know sometimes you can play okay and you don't win, right? Obviously, that's not what happened last weekend. So we want to see them get back to like playing some good Texas baseball. That doesn't mean they'll win necessarily. Probably, though, if they play good Texas baseball, they're going to come out with a win, and it'll be pretty convincing. So I think that's what we're all looking for. Let's look ahead. Florida series. This Florida team is interesting. 33-16, but 11-13 in the SEC. Started SEC play 1-11. They got swept by Tennessee, swept by Georgia, swept by Vandy, and then they had one win against Ole Miss to start the SEC series or season for them. They've been 10-2 since. Sweeps of Mizzou, sweeps of South Carolina, and then they've got series wins over a pretty hot right now Mississippi State team and Arkansas. How much of that is schedule? How much of that is improvement by this Florida team? I know they've lost some guys as the season's progressed, like a lot of teams have. To me, they seem like they're kind of limping along, but they're winning lots of games. What do you think about that, Zach?
We talked about it a little bit this morning. Similar story to A&M, right? You just start off atrociously. Like Florida started off even worse. You said 1-11. They had some injuries. They lost one of their big pitchers, Coppola, who they just got back this past weekend. They've dealt with injuries throughout the season. They just, kind of confidence. They just didn't really gel together. But if you look at their roster, like their rosters, they brought in a lot of guys, right? This is not a team that was homegrown,
right,
for the most part. And so it could very well be one of those things where it takes time for them to kind of come together. And now that they've kind of clicked, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we can go beat everyone. They do come in hot, right? But they they swept Missouri. Okay, fine. That got the bats going. They didn't sweep, but they beat Mississippi State. But, you look at that game and it was an 11-8 win and then an 8-14. And so it's not like they were just lights out. They were able to outmatch them in the second game and they outmatched them in the first game. Now, Arkansas, that was a legit series win, right? They won the game 6-4, but then they got blanked 7-0. And then they were able to out-hit Arkansas. So, and then South Carolina, it's hard to take away from South Carolina. I'm honestly surprised outside of the fact that they owe $5 million if they fired him. Paul Maneri shouldn't be coaching at this point in South Carolina.
Yeah. And they scored like 23 runs in game 3 against South Carolina. Florida did
in the second game, although it was a really it was a rain shortened crazy weekend, but yeah, they won 22-3 in game 2.
That is nuts. That's nuts.
But, the thing is, it's hard to take away some of that because you look at it and go, well, they haven't really beat anyone other than Arkansas.
That's true.
At the same time,
they beat Arkansas.
You beat Arkansas, and a win is a win. Like when you're rolling,
exactly.
You're rolling. If you're hot, you're hot. And so you can't take that away from them. But I think this weekend against Texas, honestly, is desperation mode. So that's the one thing that kind of worries me. Same thing against Arkansas, right? Arkansas had lost 3 series. They were in desperation mode. If they wanted to compete for a title, they had to have a series win. Opposite's true. If Florida wants to make it to the postseason, they need a series win.
Yeah, I feel like if they beat Texas in a series, they're locked in to the postseason. Anybody else feel like that?
If they win 2 games, that gets them to 13-14, and then they have 3-game series against Alabama, which is not going to be a cakewalk by any stretch of the mean. So, yeah, likely they need a series win against Texas and a series win against Alabama to truly solidify that they are in the tournament. Now, a series win against Texas on the road probably gets them in. Yeah, absolutely. So, but that's one of the things that Texas has to understand is they're fighting for their tournament lives, and that was one of the things we talked about today with Sauce-Nagel is like, you always talk about the weekends on Sunday where you're looking to sweep, you're looking to win a series, or you're looking to avoid being swept. Well, now you're at this point of the season where it's the entire series. You're looking to win a series so that you can get into the postseason. So,
right.
Yeah. it'll be interesting to see how they handle themselves. Personally, I hope Texas whoops their ass because I hate Kevin O'Sullivan. That guy is absolutely just
love that.
Nothing good to say about that guy.
Logan says they got their AD on the committee and a good RPI. He thinks they're in probably.
I mean,
he thinks they really just need one this weekend. Logan does.
Nah. Well, I mean, if they only get one this weekend, they're going to need at least one, probably two against Alabama, or one against Alabama, one against Texas, and they'll probably have to win 2 in Hoover.
Yeah. So either way, interesting to see. Like, the moral of the story is Florida's back's against the wall, and they've got to start doing some stuff with not a lot of time to do some stuff. So I think if you're this Texas team, you got to realize that's a dangerous team because they're talented and they are a little beat. I mean, we're talking about a team that was top 5 preseason, certainly top 10 for sure. But I think I remember them being like a top 5 team preseason, at least in some of the polls. So it's a team that has some talent and has some dudes. I mean, offensively, they're pretty good. 314 batting average, 80 home runs, 100 doubles. I think the 3 main dudes are Lawson, Bozer, and this Luke Heyman kid. They're 14 home runs, 13 home runs, 13 home runs.
And they lost Colby Shelton for the season. He leads the SEC in doubles above Jalen Flores. And that's
right. He's the shortstop, right? That they got hurt. Yeah.
So but their guy, Luke Heyman, that guy he committed his very first error of the season this past weekend against South Carolina. He's got a 9.98, and he plays catcher, and he don't run on him. I mean, he's that good. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they're a dangerous team. It'll be very interesting. Brody Donay is the guy that you look out for. He hasn't shown the power this season, but he's got some legit. I'm gonna send it over the batter's side at dish fault kind of power. Like,
yeah,
he's really, really good. So.
To me, on the pitching side, they seem it looks like Peterson and King are their Friday and Saturday guys. Liam Peterson, Aiden King, and they're both really good. 3.29 ERA, 4.09 ERA. Yep. It looks a lot like Sunday's kind of platoon style for them, like much of the teams in the SEC.
It wasn't though. Pierce Coppola he was out for 2 months, right? So now he's back. He'll almost certainly be the starter on.
Yeah, he may get the start on Sunday, but how long can he go? I think he only pitched. He didn't pitch very much against South Carolina.
Well, that was because of the rain.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the weather screwed up their entire. Like, they started the game and then it got delayed for 4 hours and they started back up. So, I wouldn't read a ton into that, but yeah, Pierce Coppola is finally back and he'll almost certainly be their third starter this weekend.
He's a lefty, right? All the rest of these guys we've been talking about are big ass righties that throw a lot of heat.
6'8" righties, and then Coppola is a big old lefty. So
yeah, fair enough. All right, let's talk predictions. Zach, we'll start with you because you're on the main screen. What do you think is going to happen this weekend?
I think Texas bounces back. It's at the Dish. They've only lost 3 games, and it's crazy. You listen to the games they've lost: LSU, Texas State, and UTSA.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Those are some weird teams to lose to. But no, I think, coming off a big sweep like that on the road, back at home, they get that extra day off. I like Texas' chances this weekend. Bounce back.
You thinking just a series win or a sweep?
I think it's a series win, personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, what do you?
I'm going to say the same, Sean. I think you're going to see Texas go 3-1 on the week overall. I do think you see Texas go 2-1 this weekend against Florida. Like you two have just mentioned, Florida is a hot team. They've got some talent, and I think they'll probably be able to pull one out over the weekend. But I think the Horns take the series. So hoping that's the case. Got to get it done this weekend and get back on track.
Yeah, I think more than any series, probably all season, to me, this is like the one I'm most interested to see out of Texas. I'm really interested to see how they bounce back. People have talked about it all. I mean, we've had some adversity. We've had injuries. We lost that first game against LSU. And we were able to come back and win 2 against LSU. That's obviously some adversity. And that was really our first big test of the season. And Friday night of that series, everybody was like, oh, shit. Like, welcome to the SEC. We're playing some big time baseball now. They were able to bounce back from that. a big time Georgia team comes in that the whole world was like, this team's hitting a bazillion home runs. Like, this is the greatest offense that baseball's ever seen. And the Texas pitching staff rose to the occasion and really shut that offense down. So there's been a lot of adversity, but we've been winning through all that adversity. This is the first time this Texas team is going to have to show up and win after getting their asses just straight up handed to them. So I'm really interested to see how they respond. You know, do we get a hangover from that? Is there like some doubt from that? Or does this team show up Friday night, all cylinders, and just start spanking people like Arkansas put on us, right? Like that's kind of what I want to see at it. I think that would be obviously a huge positive sign, but I think just mentally, if they were able to come in Friday night, act like last weekend never happened, and just start banging the ball around and pitching like they have been pitching most of the season, that would be huge for me. And I think you do that on a Friday night, and you're most certainly probably winning that series. I'm going to take Texas winning the series 2-1, but I do want to see. I think just talent-wise, they should win it 2-1. I think there's an opportunity there for a sweep just simply because of that mental factor. Like, do they show up? Is it like, y'all done messed up, we're fixing to beat Texas again? And that's really what I want to see out of this team. Win, lose, whatever. I want to see that fire out of the team that you talked about, Mark, that just was kind of missing, seemed to be missing in Fayetteville. I want them to get back to that, because I think you do that consistently, you're going to win. You're going to win baseball games. And that's ultimately what it's all about. So we've all got Texas taking the series with Florida. We've all got it 2-1. I want that sweep, man, just because I want to see this team's fire and fight back again that we didn't see. Anything else before we get out of here tonight, fellas?
I just needed them to win on Saturday, since I'm not going to be at the game or watching the game, because my son Augie's birthday is going on Saturday. So
nice.
I need them to win for
happy birthday, little man.
Yeah, happy birthday, little Augie. Well, I will be there. I will be holding it down.
Oh, nice. You are going to be in town. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be driving. It's just going to be me this weekend. I'm driving down Friday. We'll be there. Well, I say we because I'm schizophrenic and stuff, but I will be there Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday for the game. So I'm super excited about that. Mama's hanging back because we've got our daughter's graduation next weekend. So yeah, she's going to hang back and get the house ready for all that stuff. But yeah, I will be there. So we'll have 2/3 of the bullpen. You'll be there Friday night though, right, Zach?
I'll be there Friday and Sunday, just not Saturday.
All right. So for 2/3 of the series, all 3 of the bullpen will be there. Come check us out in left field. Guys, if you're in Austin, you don't have anything to do this weekend. I don't even care if you got something to do this weekend. Get your ass to the Dish, because this is a big series for these Longhorns. Let's get behind them. Let's get excited for this Texas baseball team, because I think if the crowd gets behind them, I think we'll be good. That's going to be it for this edition of the Bullpen. We'll see y'all next Monday night, 8:30. We'll be talking about a Texas series win over those Florida Gators, hopefully. Follow us on X for all the latest in Texas baseball. Subscribe, get notified to the YouTube channel for all the latest content. That's at Horn Takes. Zach, Mark, I appreciate you guys being with me tonight. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And everybody, again, get your ass out to the Dish. Let's support this team. I am Sean Redfern. We will see you guys next weekend. Y'all get hooked.
Welcome.